of both the BC and the MC of ITS who have joined us today, and special thankful to the Professor Sunil Kumar Pandey for, of course, supporting this initiative along with FICCI. What is this initiative? What are we talking about, and how it's going to be useful for you? Of course, you'll get to know in the discussions which will happen for an hour from now. We have the esteemed set of panelists who have joined us today, and I would say from different regions of India, and they would be, of course, talking about the importance of universal acceptance. So when we talk about the specific topic, and we are happy that we are launching this initiative of academia or technical skill building with your college, ITS, and the students from your college could join in. So thank you, Sunilji, for supporting us for this initiative. Like I mentioned, we wanted you all to know what is the importance of universal acceptance and how you can have your technical skill development in this area. So this is something which may, of course, come very important and handy for you for your future when you, of course, look out in your career options and do various other things. And also you would be also be part of the contemporary things required from the India's perspective. So I'll just give you a little bit brief on what we are talking about it, because some may find the universal acceptance as an alien word. For you, it may be more about the codings and the other things which you guys are currently involved in it. And I can completely relate with it because myself is also an engineer. But once you get into the real market where you want the real digital skilling to be there, the digital skills to be developed, these are the areas which you need to take care of it. So I hope everybody understands what is the multilingual internet. So when we talk about the multilingual internet, it is something like you can actually have the content and also you can navigate the internet in your language of your choice. So for India, we have 22 official languages. So, I mean, the person from any of the nook and corner of the country, apart from English and Hindi, can navigate and also read the content into the language of his or her choice. So when we talk about multilingual internet, the starting pillar for multilingual internet, or I would say a truly multilingual internet, starts from universal acceptance. So if you just have the right the content, but not the address in the language, still you are you can't reach to the destination. So that is what the universal acceptance helps in out. So it helps in getting the domain names and the email addresses in the local languages. It's kind of a, I would say, the technical compliance process, so that the internet-enabled devices, systems, and applications can recognize the domain names and the email addresses in the languages, which is just not limited to ASCII characters. So when we talk about the domain name extensions like .com and all, so really you don't really need to have like .com or .in. You can even have say .technology or anything, and that too in your respective language. So like we talk about our country, India, we are right now, of course, having .bharat, which is being taken care of by National FICCI. So that's available in 22 official languages, which you can take it now, right now also. Dr. Ajay Data, of course, apart from his the other role, he's also the CEO of a company called Exchange. His company is talking about the various other domain names which can be provided. So similarly, there are players in the market who are working on it, but more important, it's the people who need to adopt it and understand it. So for you guys, it's not about the adoption. I was telling the story because we understand that India is a market which is like, if you talk about, you know, that we are the highest consumers of data. We, of course, are the second largest internet market and app economy. And with these numbers, when we talk about a population of around 1.4 billion, you can understand the digital transformation journey can be leapfrogged if we can get and reach to the people in their own languages, and the internet benefit can be made available to them. So that is why the topic, the importance of this is very high. And as a country like India, which is like this big, this becomes further more important. And we, since you guys are already into the studying process, so you understand that the importance of digital skilling. I'm sure many would have done the Reiki of the market, also would have done those things. And you understand that the digital skills have become one of the key priorities from the top management when we talk about it. There was a recent survey which was done, which actually gave us some results, which included like 85% of the management feels that the people need to be digitally skill literate. They need to be literally high on the new digital skills. 50% of our workforce needs reskilling. And we are talking about around 12, the requirement of the digital skill workforce increasing at the rate of around 15%. I'm just talking about the conservative figures. It may grow further bigger. We all understand when you take the cumulative things of various emerging technologies, technological developments and others, how does these go on? So when we talk about these, and you understand the benefits of what I just explained it to you, multilingual internet, and how universal acceptance can play an important role. So this becomes in one of the key areas which you may like to look into it in your future, to take it as a career option, because then you would be also helping the businesses which are looking to reach to the masses. So you know that the global companies can take the advantage of these ideas and the universal acceptance concept for their domain names and the email addresses. So similarly, if you have the right skill force which is being prepared, then of course you can contribute in that area. So as FICCI, as I started initially, that we look into the various aspects of the technology from my team vertical. This language domain was something which we thought is important, and then the further the universal acceptance. So we started something called FICCI Indian Language Internet Alliance, which actually works on the areas of the language technologies across. And then we partnered with ICANN back in 2020 when we launched a local initiative chapter of UA. So as part of that, we are building up a big UA community, so that from India's side, we could have a UA community who can learn, collaborate, work together. Well, of course, that is with FICCI is facilitating that. And then obviously help us also sharing their views and of course, contributing its further development. And from the ICANN's perspective, and Dr. Data will further add on to it as the chair of UASG, that how they're looking at the India geography with respect to universal acceptance. So with these words, I would say that we are happy to organize, and FICCI-ILIA keep on doing these, the local initiative chapter keeps on doing these workshops with various stakeholder partnerships. Like this time we have joined with ITS. We have our speakers, Dr. Ajay Data and Mr. Harish Chaudhary. I'll introduce them when they have to speak. So we do these stakeholder collaborations and then we get back to the people. This is the Academia Technical Development, Skill Development Workshop, which we wanted to do. And we are launching this and we will be continuing the series with others as well in the country. So we are happy that IT has joined us today. I'm sure you guys are not getting as bored as you might have expected, and we can retain your concentration for another 1 hour. So we look forward to that. In case of any further queries, if you have, you can of course reach out to us. We will be more than happy. My team can facilitate that. With these words, I'll stop my address here. And now I would request Dr. Ajay Data, who is the chair of USG from ICANN and also a co-chair of FICCI-ITS committee. And he holds his own individual position as the CEO of XGen Technologies, to kindly give his opening and a special remarks. Over to you, Dr. Data.
Thank you, Sarika ji. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about a very, very important subject. Not only important for all of us, but also for the future of this country, these students. And it's great to have so many students here who are going to listen something which will give the wings to their careers and become a future ready workforce for the country and for the world. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. So what is universal acceptance? Universal acceptance is a very important and a new subject. As the students will know, and we all know, that originally the domain names were starting around 30 years before on .com, .net, .org, like that. Approximately 7 top-level domain names were given, and on that domain names started registering. So we all had a choice to register before the dot, not after the dot. So .com we could not choose, right? We could not write .ajay there. I had to choose .com or .net, but before the dot, I could choose whatever I wanted to. But in the past, the internet has changed. Rather than .com, which used to be of 3 characters, now it is possible to have .london, .sport, .photography, so on and so forth. Like our organization, Universal Acceptance, has a domain name uasg.tech. So there's a 4 character after the dot, that is .tech. And obviously, Later, it also changed to have the email addresses in the languages of people choice. But let us look at what internet is all about today. And it is very important to understand a little bit of future of internet, how the past is and how we are moving in the future. Around 1991, Sir Tim Berners-Lee created the first website, and that was www. So we are talking about in 1991. You can see almost 30 plus years before. Then there were no domain names at that time. There was a different system to access internet. There are 56.5 billion web pages indexed through Google and around 200 million active websites. So you can imagine it's a large canvas of a website and the pages which we are looking for. And we are looking for a content now, which is approximately 60% in English. So imagine that we are looking for the entire internet, irrespective of the language are being used worldwide in a very majority way. Still internet is prominent in English as far as the content is concerned. And how it is important, you will understand that in my next discussion. So what is universal acceptance? So as the word changed, there were new kind of top level domain names. What is top level domain name? After the dot, so you can see the red characters. These are the top level domain names. What is on the right side of the dot is a top level. What is on the left side of the dot is a second level. So, and this form totally as a domain name. So whenever we refer to gmail.com, for example, to make it easy, Gmail character or word is a second level, .com is a top level domain name. And top level domain names are registered first, and then only the domain names can be registered. So now new kind of top level domain names started coming in. .sky, .international, and the third example you can see, it is in Thai script, the Thai domain name. You can imagine now there are Hindi domain names. You can see an example below, which is my email address. These are the examples which are new in the internet, which were not there before. So we always saw an email address in English, a domain name in English, and that too with .com, .net, .org. But we never experienced a new top level domain name or a long top level domain name or a language based top level domain name. We started seeing them in the last decade. And that is where the need of universal acceptance came into picture. And I will tell you why. Same with an email addresses. So you can see that there is an email address with a long top level domain name. So all of you who is listening to me right now, most of you will have a top level domain name, which is after the dot of only 3 or 2 characters. I don't think you will have a domain email address in more than 3 characters. If you have one, you may be facing a problem. And that's what we are going to talk about today and how you can help to solve this. The domain name with the non-English characters. You can see the Spanish characters or the characters with the special characters. The email addresses with fully non-English characters. You can see ajay@data.bharat. And it is not the fake email address, by the way. It is a valid current email address. अगर आप लोगों को ये याद रह सकता है, if you can remember this, you can write an email to me on this email address and it will come to me. And there is an email address which is in Arabic. And why it is important? Arabic scripts gets written from right to left. Normally, we always write from left to right. Arabic scripts are written from right to left. And hence, it is also very important as an example. So what do we expect in universal acceptance? That all kind of domain names, all kind of email addresses must be accepted in all software applications. I will repeat. And it's an important sentence you must remember. All domain names, all email addresses must be accepted in all software applications. And how to test that, whether it is accepted or not? So there are 5 pillars in the bottom of my screen. That is accept, validate, process, store, and display. So you have a college website where you can go and type in to log in into something, or your LMS or your attendance or somewhere. And if you have a Hindi email address, to an example, will web page accept that to be typed in? Will I be allowed to type in that email address? Will it validate it well? Will it process it the way it is required? Will it store it the way it is required? And will it display it back to me the way I have entered? If your website or the software application, whatever you are using, have all the 5 pillars passed, your application is UA ready. Otherwise, if it breaks, it means the internet or the application which you are using has a problem. And that is a universal acceptance issue. That is what we need to solve. That is what is required to be solved. And that is an awareness which we are going to do today. So my colleague here, Harish, who is an ambassador here in India, universal acceptance, we have few of them like him. He is going to speak a little bit about technology and technical things, how you can take advantage and how you can make UA ready applications and what are the advantages around that. The importance and why you should do it. Why it is important for you. So for you, especially for students, you can be the future ready knowledge holder. So imagine the people who were 15, 20 years before had better knowledge about domain names, about email addresses, about the way the internet works. They reached to the top. They flew in their career. They got the best jobs available. They started the great companies. And the similar opportunity is now for all of you. Because the internet is evolving to the language-based internet. A new internet is getting formed, which is going to have a domain names and email addresses in the language of person's choice. And that has to be, that knowledge is required for software applications and navigation of internet in future. And that is where it is important to understand the importance of UA readiness. And once you know how to make a software application, how to design a software application, how to talk about the UA readiness, how to ensure that you have to get a UA ready application, this entire knowledge is worth $10 billion opportunity. That is a survey which we did few years before. Personally, I think it is much more bigger. The new survey is going to form, but this is right now the authentic number which we did as an organization to do a study, and we came up with number. End users, the benefit is for end users also, not just for you, for the career. Ultimately, there has to be consumer of whatever we produce. End user has an access to the internet in his language choice. Imagine for a second, you do not know English. Professor Sunil, who is going to speak, do not know English. How does he access the website of Government of India? How do you access? Because you don't know English. You don't know the domain name. How about I know Hindi and my domain name is sarkar.bharat in Hindi? The language barrier is broken. How about an email address as pradhanmantri@sarkar.bharat and I can reach out to the PMO? Imagine this language barriers are broken. We are going to get next billion people online. And that is the importance of UA readiness. And this has a opportunity even for businesses, registrants, because we all are going to get new customers if we start offering this service and provide an opportunity for new customers to come online. Universal acceptance works voluntarily. So it's an opportunity even for you to work with Universal Acceptance Steering Group. So there are 6 working groups, which you can see in front of you. Measurement working group, technology working group, email address internationalization working group, communications working group, local initiative working group, and coordination working group. This event is happening because of the local initiative working group in India, which Sarika leads here from FICCI. I represent the global chairmanship of the Universal Acceptance, In India, Sarika represents the local initiative. Harish is the ambassador who talks about technology and advocates universal acceptance in the country. These working groups are volunteering. You can join any working group. So if you are thinking that I should know more about, you can simply join discuss list and monitor what's going on. Or if you think that I am a developer, I am working on technologies, you can join technology working group. And there is no rejection criteria there. You can join and learn and attend meetings. You will gain a lot of knowledge for sure. And a lot of trainings also happen. So you might contact Sunilji, contact Sarika and organize a training session for UA readiness in that university for students. That is also very much possible to organize, and we provide certificates in that. That's the next action which you can think of. What is IDN? So this term is very important to understand. And it is important for you to understand internationalized domain name. It is very simple, though it is written in detail in the screen, that non-Latin character, non-English character, agar domain name mein hai, if it is in there in the domain name, it means it's an IDN. And that domain name requires different kind of dealing technically, which Harish will take up. And domain names, as I shared already, have second level, top level, and the script. This is how the domain names are structured. I shared already about this. And this is my last slide. So why universal acceptance is important for next billion people come online. Almost 88% of the country of India do not speak English as a primary language. 88%. Imagine 88% people are given the internet in the way they want to access internet in their own language, whether it is Bengali or Tamil or Telugu or Marathi or Hindi, it doesn't matter. In every language, you can do that. I have also given you an app, data mail app for all of you. It's a free app which you can install and experience an email address in your language choice. So you could get an email ID the way I have on the left side of your screen, ajay@data.bharat. And you all can have that and experience, and then use that email ID to try out your software applications you are making. That's the reason I have given you this application, so that you can test your application, whether it is UA ready or not. And if it is not UA ready, solve that problem in whatever software application or a website you are making. And this could be a good project. This could be a great initiative, and you can start making UA ready applications. Opportunity is coming very big. Government of India is pushing language initiative in a big way, universal acceptance in a big way. And you all will hear a lot of policy announcements around it, a lot of discussions around it in the future. So it is very, very important topic. I must congratulate all of you to agree to listen about UA readiness, spare your time and make yourself a very flourishing, very rewarding career by adding UA in your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Data, for starting the session with your opening remarks and, of course, setting the tone about the UA and how important it is. Just to continue, like Dr. Data mentioned, various policy announcements from the government are also going to happen. We are seeing that there's lots of traction within the government. And when I talk about it, traction, I mean to say both at the center and the states level. Like I mentioned, there are 22 official languages of India. So one of the recent initiatives has been india.sarkar.bharat. Which is the portal of the government, is made live. So if you, I mean to say, when you write this in Hindi, india.sarkar.bharat, you can access the government services on that portal through this address. So that's something which the government has already taken that initiative. And there are many more, I would say, which are in pipeline and would be coming into you. So we can see the requirement of this area. It is important from all respects. You talk about the government, you talk about the industry, you talk about the businesses, you talk about the common persons and common people of our country. So everybody has importance for this area. So when you work in this area, of course, you can see how much difference you can make in all the areas, apart from, of course, I would say the career opportunity which you can take it in this area, the line which you can take it to digital skilling. So with this, we come to our next speaker, Dr. Sunil Kumar Pandey, Professor and Director, IT and UG Campus ITS. Thank you, Sunil ji, for agreeing. Like I mentioned, we are happy that we have been able to launch this initiative along with ITS as the first college which we have been able to have this discussion. We look forward to your address on the importance of next phase of skilling in the ICT sector. Over to you, Dr. Sunil.
Thank you, Sarika. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. In fact, I really feel privileged to be part of this very important session, which is being organized on such a theme, which normally not discussed at any forum except the initiative of FICCI, the local body which is setting up this as a benchmark for others to follow and to think upon. Because as a student of professional program, especially those who are in IT, BC or MCA course, that learning technology, learning subject is very important. No one denies that, because ultimately this is the course. Successful completion of this course will give you a platform where you would be able to demonstrate your ability and skills. But the more important thing, and I'm sure that most of the students will be surprised, that why we are here. Now, gone are those days when we started our career. We had learned some technology, we had learned certain concepts, and we had that luxury to stick on that technology which we learned for years in future. Now, we all know the way technology is moving, the technology is changing, the way businesses are changing, the way processes are changing. It is very important that apart from technical and domain knowledge, we should also keep close watch on these happenings, because ultimately at the end of the day, when you will be completing your course, you would be most of you would be joining some organization where you will have to cope up with all these changes and align yourself so that you are productive to the organization. That is one aspect. Apart from that, the one thing which, as far as my understanding is concerned, that policy which Mr. Ajay sir was mentioning, that the policy of governments are changing every day. The way he was mentioning, Sarika ji mentioned that we have got 22 official languages in India. Our population is somewhere around 1.4 billion. And out of these 1.4 billion population, the 48% are female population and 52% are almost the male population. And out of these 1.4 billion population of India, the important aspect is that around 35.9% of population as of January 2022, it resides in urban areas, and rest 64.1% population resides in rural part. Now, if you look at that entire perspective, that it has huge potential, because still, I was going through a research report of Capios research, and they have conducted this report, and they come out with a very important figure that by January 2022, I'm sure that this should be the latest data. Out of 1.4 billion population of India, around 658 million people were internet users. That's a huge number. But if you look at other side, you will see that apart from the 658, about 742 million people as of now don't have access to internet facilities. And this is where actually the huge opportunity potential exists. Now, how to at this availability of internet facility to about 47% of entire population, it brings a challenge that this is not only a number where we are saying that around 53% population of country has still not access to internet, but it creates a huge digital divide. And until unless any success of any technology depends on how people are oriented towards it, how people have access to all these facilities, because until unless these benefits are taken to last person in the road, actual advantage will not be served. How to do that? And most importantly, as Ajay Datta was mentioning, that most of the population speaks its local language. They find more comfortable in local languages, whether it is Hindi, whether it is Bhojpuri, whether it is Maithili, whether it is Marathi, whether it is Tamil, whether it is Konkani, Kannada, Tamil. Means we have lots of languages and dialects. There are people, those who might be interested in using these technologies, getting benefits of it, but since they do not have that understanding of the language of English, maybe this could be the reason why we are not able to take a huge population of about 53% on this dominating technology to which we call internet. We as a student of professional course, we all know, and as a professional, we know how important it is, how it has eased the life of common man. So to grow as a country, if some part of the country to which we call Bharat is not joining hand to some part of the country to which we call India, probably the development, the growth, the progress of the country will not be achieved. That is on one side. Now, how to do that? For that, there are lots of work needs to be done. One, which Mr. Ajay sir has mentioned, and all these things are creating huge requirement of professionals like you who could come forward, know these things in advance, because by the time you'll be completing your course, the initiative of FICCI, joining hand with Government of India, are going to create enormous opportunity where all of you will have something to take it from there. But for that, you need to be prepared. On the other side, if you look at the businesses where you are aspiring to join, the massive adoption of technology in the industry, whether it is retail, whether it is healthcare, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is education, whatever vertical you take, massive adoption is taking place. And that massive adoption has led the ease of functioning of businesses, improving the business processes. And that's why now today we see lots of people are talking about AI, applications of AI, or machine learning, the robotics, the AR, the VR, and IoT, and whatnot. But actually people are talking about all these things. But how many people are actually involved into it? That is the big question. And that's where your space is already in existence, where you need to find out a way how to leverage these technologies to create applications to facilitate the process of universal acceptance, so that the 53% population also are brought at a level where they can join hand with the people, those who have that advantage of primary language, English, as speaking or writing. The other part is that people have been talking about digital divide. And the major reason behind digital divide is the availability, accessibility, and affordability of technology. Even if accessibility is available, is there, but if it is not affordable, again, it's a big challenge, because there's a significant number of population who cannot invest that much money into in availing those facilities, those services. So all these things are becoming very important, and to the young professionals like you, because ultimately you know the technology, you know how these technologies can be applied. You can work upon, you can sit and see how these technologies can be aligned in such a way that applications could be developed in a form which is not available only to the privileged people having English as a primary language, but at the same time, these facilities, these features, these tools, these technologies are also made available to the people, to the common people, those who are not that much privileged when it comes to the language barrier. So breaking the language barrier is the biggest challenge. And if we can do that, probably what Datta Sir was mentioning, I will take from there only. Let's suppose if you are writing a mail. If you're writing a mail, if you write, suppose if you write your name like in Hindi, Sunil Pandey at Bharat dot Shiksha. Now I want to have my identity as an individual, as a Bharati in Shiksha. Now you all know that there is no such way exists where I can present my identity like this, because this is universally not accepted. And ultimately, universal acceptance comes when it creates a business value to the organization. and to create that business value, this is a very crucial time, because we all must remember that we are living in an era of in a globalized environment where the connecting, the collaboration, the coordination, the cooperation is key to the success, which will lead further to coexistence of all of us, and will ensure that co-growth of everyone whomsoever is involved into that process. The initiative, of course, this is the time when we could have discussed on the underlying technologies, that how it can help, because it requires understanding of telecommunication. It requires an understanding of how DNSs are created, because ultimately this understanding will help to take all these development process aligned with what you are in fact aiming for. I'm sure that this initiative will create a plethora of opportunities for all the young professionals, especially those who are in the field of IT, like BCA or MCA posts. And they will start thinking today, because there are lots of initiative that has been taken by Government of India to promote this. The one of the initiatives is Atmanirbhar Bharat. Probably this initiative itself will act as an umbrella where lots of initiative will be aligned with the nation, with the development, with the processes which will be aligned to our national goal. And subsequently, if this happens, the universal acceptance of our own local things will also take place. And also, we all know that we are living in a place where everyone talks about context, whether it is language, whether it is individual, whether it is a way of conducting businesses, whether expressing ourselves. So context-aware computing, which was taught about 15, 16 years back, now actually finding its place. And this context-aware computing, aligned with the current technological advancements to fulfill the need of universal acceptance, will definitely serve as not only the opportunities for everyone to explore, finding the new ways, not only to joining the jobs, but also creating entrepreneurial prospects. And from getting job seeker, I'm sure that many of you could come up with your new ideas, new ways, and implementing it to become job givers. My best wishes are with you all. And I'm really thankful to FICCI, to Sarika ji, to Ajay ji, to Harish ji for sparing time to discuss and to throw light on this very important topic, which otherwise is not discussed at any forum. We will later discuss and focus on technological aspects also to give better understanding to our students, where they can find some direction, some path to work upon and contribute in this universal acceptance process. Thank you, Sarika.
Thank you, Sunilji. Thank you for your insightful address, and completely agree with you. Like you mentioned, and you already shared the data, and I'll be repetitive on that part, but it is usually said that 9 out of the 10 internet users, which would be in future, would be the Indic internet users. So that's the numbers we are talking about it. So, and then when you talk about Indic, of course, that automatically gives the I would say the flair on which we started the whole discussion, that how the multilingualism and UA is important for them. You added lots of C's. I was just listening to you where you talked about correlation, and then you talked about collaboration, and then you talk about I would say the various things required for the coexistence. So I would say that in the time of high competition, this is one of the areas, universal acceptance, which helps you become highly competent. So those are the two additional things I'll add on to the C's, because apart from that, the students who's part of the discussion and who are hearing this session today, like you said, yes, we do expect that many of them would be the job creators, not only the seekers. So either way, they are going to contribute. They will require these kind of skills for their own businesses, or to work as I would say the digitally skilled literate level with the senior management with the various corporations. So this is something which is there apart from the various benefits and other things which we have been talking about it. So thank you, Dr. Sunil, for your address. And with this, now we move on to our next speaker, who is Mr. Harish Chaudhary. He is a UA ambassador, USG, and a research scholar and faculty for the National Forensic Science University, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Thank you, Harish ji, for joining us today. we know that, and as FICCI, we have been working with you on the various aspects of the multilingualism and of course UA, and we would continue this journey. We on various other aspects like we have been talking about it. So today you have these people from the BC and the MCA who have joined us. We would want you to take them through with the technical skill development for how it is important and what can they need to learn for the universal acceptance in India. So something on those areas. If the students, if you have any questions for the speaker, the technical skill development presentation, which Harish ji would take it, you can let us know. I don't know whether we can take it online right now or not. Otherwise, we will be happy to take it offline and we can check with the speakers and get back to you. So in any case, like I said, FICCI is running the local initiative chapter of Universal Acceptance and the FICCI Indian Language Internet Alliance. So you're more than happy to join that. My colleagues will post the joining link for you. You can take the joining link. It will be obviously also shared with your institute and then you can join in there. So with these words, over to you, Harish, for your address and for your presentation.
Thank you, Sarika ma'am. And thanks a lot, Dr. Ajay Data, for the wonderful start to the session. And as always, Dr. Ajay Data made my task easy today because he had covered a lot of, background of universal acceptance, why it is necessary. And I also thank, Professor Sunil Kumar Pandey for such a, wonderful, points and wonderful, thoughts during the session. So I need one more additional minute to, upload my presentation. So, and I hope I am audible to all the participants. So I hope this is visible to everybody.
Yes, Harish is visible. You like to make it a full screen?
Yeah. So now
yes, all good. All good.
Full screen. So because this topic is, really important, it is also technical as well as it is, but we should also have some background about it. So there is a theory part and there is a practical part. So theory part we all have, discussed today during the, sessions before this. And in my session, I will cover some part of what is universal acceptance and technical things related to it, because the students are from the Masters of Computer Applications as well as the BCA. So I hope they will take some idea of this presentation and they will create some projects in their colleges for their next semester or their thesis, and I'm really happy to help all of them. So in my first this slide, you could see my one email ID in the English language, and there is another email ID, sampark@chaudharyharish.bharat in Hindi. So this is the exercise to all of my students. So I hope this is visible to everybody. And my question is to all the students that what do you think? What is the composition of internet and what kind of languages present on the internet? So the specific question is that which of the following pie chart most closely represents the fraction of website on internet that are primarily English language based content? So first option is 25% English content is present on internet and 75% in all other languages. The second one is the 50% English and 50% in all other languages. And third one is 75% English content and 25% all other content. So is there any answer from the participants? I hope I am audible to everybody. Okay.
Harish, you are audible.
Yes, yes. So I think most of them would answer the third one, but the reality is the second one. So it shows that the other languages on internet are keep on growing in addition to the English language. And that is where we all are putting our focus, that why we should understand universal acceptance, what is the use of multilingual internet, and what is, what are the different kind of opportunities in terms of businesses, in terms of job opportunities. So because of these, important facts, and now you will be amazed, in few years, we have more local language content on internet than English. So during this lecture, we will be covering the 5 criteria of universal acceptance, those important 5 pillars, and to understand them and to be able to implement good practices, that how to implement these 5, criteria, including good practices, along with some technical terminologies which are related to the universal acceptance. So because we all have deliberated about that why universal acceptance is important, so I have just listed down here so that our students could actually read the slides if they are missing while listening. So why? Because there is a growing number of languages and scripts present on the internet, including non-Latin. Non-Latin means which are not English, which includes Hindi and other Indian languages. So we have 22 scheduled languages or in official languages, then Arabic, Chinese, and many other languages and scripts are present on the internet. And because of which, to support all those scripts and all those readers as well as the users of all those languages, it is required that all the internet enabled applications, devices, and system should accept, validate, store, process, and display all domain names and email addresses appropriately. So that is the main, definition and main requirements of the universal acceptance. And in simple words, that Dr. Ajay Data, already told everyone that all the domain names and email ID should be accepted in all the software applications. So these are the 5 criteria. I am repeating again because you have to understand all of them. So accept, validate, store, process, and display. And all the valid domain names and email addresses are accepted, validated, stored, processed, and displayed correctly and consistently by all the internet-enabled applications, devices, and systems, along with the software applications. Now, because this also includes, my presentation also includes the technical terms. So in technicality, what is universal acceptance? So universal acceptance is about how to appropriately support internationalized identifiers. So this term, internationalized identifiers, is new to everybody present here and all the students. So internationalized identifiers are the IDNs, internationalized domain names, and email address internationalization. That means emails in local languages. So, and along with new and long TLDs. So what do you mean by long TLDs? In the earlier session, Dr. Ajay Data told you there were legacy top level domains like .com, .org. They are country code top level domains like .in, .de, .fr. So you have to understand, in all of them, the characters, number of characters are only 3 or 2. Okay. .in has 2 characters, .com has 3 characters. But in terms of long top level domain, so you can see .international. So we have more than 3 characters. .signs. We have more than 3 characters. So you can see that it is not about the language. In addition to that, we also have to support top level domains which have characters more than 3. Okay. So that is very important. Again, internationalized domain names in which there is different languages are present other than English. So one of the example is sarkar.bharat, which is equivalent to the gov.in. So I have put these examples just for the, so that you could actually understand what we are talking about. I hope this is clear to everybody. So here you can see changes in the domain name system. In 2006, we have generic top-level domain. You could see .com, .org, .aero, .edu, and then we have country code top-level domains, which represents, a country, that is .uk. So we have .jp. Okay. So and then after 10 years. After 10 years, we have generic top-level domains like .com, again .bank, .global, .london, .sangathan in Hindi language, and other languages as well. You can also see that country code top-level domain. These are, around 300, and you could also see .bharat. Okay, so these are the changes in the domain name system. So earlier we have lesser number of top-level domains with lesser number of characters, less than 3. Now we have more number of top-level domains with the characters more than 3, and also in the local language. So that is the change in last 10 years. I mean, now we are in 2022. So again, we are moving very fast. There are some examples. So you could see a domain name, universal acceptance test.international. It is also a valid domain name, and its category is sky.sky and new long. So you have to differentiate between the new long and new short. When there are more than 3 characters, it is new long. And if they have 2 or 3 characters, but they are not from the legacy top-level domains, let's say .icu. It is a new, top-level domain, but it is a short one in comparison to the .international. So we also have IDN right to left scripts. You could see the Arabic script. Then we have meity.sarkar.bharat. It is in Hindi, which belongs to the Devanagari script, which is idn.idn. So these are the various domain names examples. Now we have the email address examples. So if we have domain name in local languages, then we also have the emails in local languages. So email test@universal acceptance.test.international. It is also a email address, and it is a valid email address. And you could also see sampark@chaudharyharish.bharat in the Devanagari, because I know you could easily correlate with Devanagari script. So that is why I have put all the examples in Devanagari. So you could see Sampark, which is in Hindi, and it could be represented in Unicode @Chaudhary Harish. It is internationalized domain name, and .idn, and again .idn is a Bharat. It is again label in internationalized domain name in the Devanagari script. So these are the various domain names and email addresses which are present, on the internet space. And why we all are discussing them? Again, I'm repeating, because these are not accepted in all these are not accepted. The not word is important. So these are the issues related to the universal acceptance, and we all have to work together, develop the solution so that these valid email addresses as well as the domain names should be accepted in the computer systems, internet enabled applications, software applications. Okay. So this is the anatomy of IDN domain names and internationalized email IDs. So you could see India.sarkar.bharat. It is a valid domain name. You just open your browser, copy paste it, and then the website will open. I will also show the example in the last slides. So HTTPS is the protocol, India is subdomain, Sarkar is domain, and .bharat is a top level domain. So that is the differentiation. You could also see internationalized email like sampark@chaudharyharish.bharat, which is Unicode @idn.idn. Okay. And email test @ua.international. Now you will say, why this email test @ua.international is internationalized email? Because this top level domain has more than 3 characters, .international. So that is also the example of internationalized email ID. Okay. So before, implementing this, you have to understand few key fundamental concepts. So these key fundamental concept is Unicode, IDNs in UA. We also we already discussed about internationalized domain names and universal acceptance, but one has to understand about the Unicode. So what is Unicode? So there is ASCII encoding, which is, all my students know about this during their MCA and BCA. There is a ASCII encoding, which represent English characters. And there is Unicode encoding, which represent all the characters in the world. And these Unicode encode, it encodes and represent different script in a machine understandable, format, which is numerically, we call them as a code points. So these code points are represented in the form of the hex. That means, hexadecimal format, and the notation is U represent Unicode plus that XXXS means some code point notation, and then we assign some value to these code points so that the characters could be represented in the machine understandable format. So you can see the example that when you know that in computers we represent any code point in a unique way. So that is the also aim of the Unicode. So Unicode aims at adhering to the one character, one code point principle. But there are several instances and examples where it has ended up providing multiple ways of encoding single code points. For example, you could see this character with a cap, E character, like it is not English E, but it has some cap. Generally, directly it represented as U plus 00E8, but it could also be represented as E plus this cap character equal to E cap character, again U plus 0065 and U plus 0300. So it could be represented in two ways. First, the U plus 00E8, and then the combination of U plus 0065 plus U plus 0300. And this is the case with Ka character. Again, there is one more character which could be represented in two ways. So there is an issue in a computer, how to do it, how to solve this problem. So we solve this problem by the normalization. Okay. So normalization ensures that the end representation is the same even if end user type differently. So in first case, you have seen that there are two ways of typing one character, but normalization is the process which could, solve this problem. So you have to understand this keyword normalization form C, that is NFC. So NFC solve the issue of this, double representation into a single format. Okay. I hope I am audible to everybody. Okay, moving forward. So now these code points are typically carried using the UTF-8 format. So what is UTF-8? Unicode Transformation Format 8-bit. So while we are implementing the universal acceptance, we have to utilize what encoding format of Unicode, that is UTF-8. Why? Because variable number of byte for a single code point, ASCII characters are used as is, and this is the gold standard for carrying Unicode code points in web as well as in the different protocols. So that is the important part of the UTF-8. So you have to remember these keywords: what is Unicode, what is ASCII, normalization form C, and the UTF-8. So you already have seen that what is domain name. So technically a domain name is an ordered set of labels, that is A.B.C.D. For example, www.example.in, wherein which top level domain is the rightmost level, that is D. So here in example.in, the rightmost label is .in. Okay. So initially top level domains were only 2 or 3 characters, .in, .com or .uk. Now we have longer strings like .international, .engineering, .info, and we also have, in local languages, .bharat, .sangathan. So how they came into the picture? By the standards. Okay. So what are the latest standard? Internationalized domain name standard called IDNA 2008. That is Internationalized Domain Name in Application 2008. So when you are developing the solution, you have to refer this standard. And at the same time, there is one more, standard which were developed in 2003, but please do not use it because now it is outdated. So domain names can also be internationalized when one of the label contain at least one character which is not English, okay, which is not non-ASCII. That is why I have underlined it. So example is bharatbhasha.bharat or www. This is, written like example.ca, but in the example you could see there is a cap on A. So that means it is also a internationalized domain name. Understood? So what are IDNs? In IDNs, we have already discussed it, but there are two important factors. These two important factors are U label and A label. Now, what is U label? After studying Unicode, so the UTF-8 format, okay, which is human users could read, are known as U label. That is example with the cap on A and Bharat Bhasha. This is U label. Applications or system internally use a ASCII equivalent. So basically in domain name system, these U labels are converted into the A labels, which A label is a ASCII equivalent of the Unicode, encoding. So how could you find that something is A label? Because it starts with X and dash dash, okay, and this is in front of you underlined. So what is the process of using an internationalized domain name? So let's say you are entering into your browser bharatbhasha.bharat or example with cap on a.ca, then browser do the normalization on the user entry, okay, and browser converts this bharatbhasha.bharat into the ASCII compatible representation, which is known as the Unicode. So anything starting with X and dash dash is known as the Unicode or A label, and it is defined in the RFC. RFC is the standard 3492. So standard RFC number 3492, it is developed by the Internet Engineering Task Force. And they and what it said, this RFC said, add X and dash dash in front of the this Unicode. So now you could see that example.ca becomes x and dash dash example.xta.ca, that is the Unicode. Or if there is bharatbhasha.bharat, it is converted into the x and dash dash h2br bk1b0bdb. So that is, kind of encoding. You don't have to learn all of that, but you have to understand what is actually happening. And then finally, browser calls the domain name system to get IP address of this x and dash dash example.xta.ca, and then browser connects to the HTTPS server to receive the IP address, and then finally the website. So these are the some steps which are there while we are doing the resolution of an internationalized domain name. Now, this was related to the internationalized domain names. Now we have the email address internationalization. That means emails in local languages. So what is the syntax of an email? It's very simple. Left side @domain name. For example, Harish Chaudhary @gmail.com. Okay. So domain names can be internationalized as an IDN, U labels or A labels. And left side, which is also known as the mailbox name, it could be Unicode, UTF-8, or is when there is an Unicode or UTF-8 in the left side, that is, we know them as email address internationalization. Okay. Now the problem is that not all the email server supports EAI. So a negotiation protocol is generally used to check if some server is supporting EAI or not. And if it is not supporting, then email falls back and it will deliver the message that unable to deliver. Now, the important part is earlier we are using UTF-8 in case of domain name, but what encoding and or protocol we have to use in the email address internationalization, that is the SMTP UTF-8. That is a simple mail transfer protocol Unicode transformation format 8-bit. We have to use it to implement universal acceptance on the email IDs. Okay. So, and what would be the overhead when you are implementing all of this? Then mail headers need to be updated to support EAI in addition to the SMTP UTF-8, and mail headers are used by the mail softwares to get more information on how to deliver the email. So that is the use of mail headers. These are the some pointers I'm putting here because this is kind of a long presentation, and due to the interest of time, I'm just explaining the important parts. So you also have to understand the various, parts of an email stack or various component of email. That is the mail user agent, mail transferring agent, mail submission agent, and mail delivery agent. These are the 4 important parts of an email system. There are other parts as well, but these are 4 very important. And MTA, the mail transfer agent, is a very important role in addition to all of them. So when we are sending and receiving an internationalized email or email address internationalization, then a sender is sending using the client. Client could be your browser, okay, that you are opening Gmail in that, and then you are using SMTP with EAI, and it will go to the mail server, and there are several mail servers in present between them till it reach the receiver. Then we have the again protocol called POP, Post Office Protocol, or IMAP with EAI, and then finally mail user client will receive the email. But one has to understand that all email parties involved in the delivery path have to be updated for EI support. If there is no EI support at one of the party, this email will not be received at the receiver end. And if a single SMTP server in the path does not support EI, then the email is not delivered. So that is the message. So all the parties involved in the mail transfer should be SMTP UTF-8 enabled, or they should have support for EAI. So how to do the support for EAI? So you could see that there is a postfix, a software which is also known as MTA, mail transferring agent. So how to enable SMTP UTF-8 there? So you have to go to this /etc/postfix/main.cf file, configuration file, and then you have to enable SMTP UTF-8 flag equal to yes. You can see in the bold letters. So that is the configuration. This is one of the examples. Then there is a MailMate, again one more software. How to do configuration? So earlier postfix configuration was on Linux. There is configuration on the Mac OS. So for example, you one want to use this kevin@example.com, which is an EAI. Then there is a courier.xn running software as an IMAP or SMTP software, and then they have the support for SMTP UTF-8. Then you have to enable the flag equal to yes. So you could all see then there is a yes. Okay. And these are the IMAP account settings we are doing in MailMate. So finally, doing all those settings, you could see the message from MailMate is received successfully on the other end. Okay. Then this kind of configuration one has to do. Now, what are the other important points? Other important points are that case folding. So when we write in English, Kevin and Kevin are same thing. Kevin in small letter and Kevin in upper letters or capital letters. But in case of Kevin and Kevin, this cap mark in Unicode, they are not same. So Unicode case folding is typically not done by the server. One has to understand, or the developer or the person who is developing the project have to take care the case folding, that it should be automatically treated differently, not as the ASCII characters. So typically in ASCII email addresses, the local part can be uppercase or lowercase. In UTF-8 or in Unicode, the case folding is not same as ASCII. Okay. So both Kevin and Kevin are different. Spam filtering. So because this is a new short and new long top level domains. And earlier the spam filtering is only taking care of characters which are more than 3. Okay. Which are less than 3. Now we have .engineering, we have international. So spam filtering may think EAI as a spam, even with SPF and DKIM. So these are SPF and DKIM, and again some protocols to do the spam filtering. So this is because the spam filtering does not know about EAI. So when somebody is developing the solution, they have to understand that and they have to take care of it. New top level domains and IDNs may also be viewed as spam. So mail user agent, MUA softwares uses your contact database to determine if an email is known to you or not. And this will make it more likely to be considered spam if the email of the sender is not in your contact database. What is mean by that? That sampark@harishchaudhary.bharat in the Hindi language or in Devanagari script is the email ID which is not present in your database. So when I send an email to you using my Hindi email ID, it will most probably land in the spam. So we also have to check the spam filtration. And we have to also make sure that this contact database contains the EI email of the contact. So to building a database of EI emails is also important. So what is the conclusion? That EI is essentially supporting UTF-8 local part of an email address, which also means supporting in the headers and requires changes to mail servers and mail clients. All SMTP servers in the path must be EI enabled to deliver the mail to the destination. Courier and Postfix are 2 open source software that supports EI with very limited changes in the configuration. And in configuration files, be careful to use A labels, ASCII labels, and U labels, which are readable, human readable, or both, depending on the situation. So these are the important points. I hope I have some time. Hello, am I audible?
Harish,
Yes,
you
sir.
have time. You can take more 5 minutes. It's okay.
Okay. So we all have discussed about the 5 important pillars of universal acceptance, but I am also discussing these 5 pillars with good practices. Okay, what are the good practices one has to follow? So the process, what is acceptance or accept? The process by which an email address or domain names is received as a string of characters from a user interface file or an API, application programming interface. So what are the good practice? The good practice is user interfaced element must support Unicode and the strings length up to 256 characters. Okay. And it should be ASCII compatible and it should be punicoded in place of Unicode. So we should use Unicode. Unicode should be shown by default. So let's say sampark@harishchaudhary.bharat should be shown by default, not the punicode of it. So punicode text only shown when it provides a benefit. So in some cases where there is a benefit and which could be unique cases, only we should use punicode. The details are present in the RFC 3492. Now what are the what are the good practices for process? The process by which an email address or domain name received or emitted is checked for the syntax correctness. So here we are checking the correctness of the syntax. So when we have to do the validation, so it is very important. Validation, we only validate if it is required for the operations of applications of services. So let's say wherein which we are accepting the username as an email ID or a domain name. So we will do the validation. Otherwise, if there is no username input boxes which are accepting the email addresses in local languages or the names, we should avoid the validation. Because why? Because it is the good practice to validate to the minimum extent necessary. Okay. And recognize the syntactically correct inputs may not represent domain names or email addresses currently in use on the internet. That means currently English domain names and email IDs are used, but when we are validating, we have to also consider the domain names in local languages and domain names in emails in local languages. Now we have to also check that top level domain against the authoritative tables. For example, some authoritative tables, when we use these examples are, these authoritative tables are present on data.ina.org or internet.net, and there are also icon.org has also some files which are SAC070, which have the procedure and the data to verify against these authoritative tables. We also have to query domain name against the domain names servers, and the example is get DNS API, which is present in the getDNSAPI.net. So these are the again good practices for validation, because validation part is very important. And we also have to validate against that. We have to see that if we are using some characters which are not allowed, so we have to use RFC 5892. We have to also use whole label rules which are defined in RFC 5894. I know this is a bit technical, but I am just giving you the details wherein which you could go into the details while implementing. Now, example is that if a string resemble a domain name which containing the Arabic full stop character, which is represented by the hex code U+06D4 or the ideographic full stop character represented by U+3002, then we have to convert it to the full stop. So these are the some conditions which are given in these standards. And we also have to ensure that the product or feature handles numbers correctly. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which are represented by ASCII characters, and in some other languages should be handled as same as the number. So Devanagari in Hindi, when we write 1, 2, 3, we write in a different way. So the number should be handled properly. The system should not crash. Okay. How to store? While storing, we have to understand that information should be stored in UTF-8 whenever it is possible. There are variations of UTF-8 like UTF-16, UTF-7, UTF-32, and all of them has a different usage. So for us, the gold standard is UTF-8. Okay. And we have to also consider end-to-end scenario before converting between A labels and U labels. So because it may be desirable to maintain only U label, which is human readable, for example, Harish Chaudhary.bharat, in a file or database, because it simplifies searching for the simplified searching and sorting. However, conversion may be required with the old non-Unicode enabled application and services. Consider storing and indexing both the formats. So while storing, we have to also do the indexing as well for the better search. And clearly mark email addresses and domain during the storage. And if you don't store in Unicode, you must be able to match a string in multiple formats. So for example, you are not storing in Unicode format. So for example, you want to search .bharat. Okay. So .bharat equivalent or the Unicode of it is .accent-h2brj9c. So while searching, you also search for .bharat as well as for its Unicode equivalent or its UTF-8 equivalent. Okay. Then process. So since the Unicode standard is continually expanding, check code points that not defined when application services was created. So let's say you have created some solution 2 years back, and now because Unicode is changing, so some new standard is there. So you have to search for the latest standard. For example, missing font in the underlying operating system may result in non-display undisplayable characters like this square or junk character, because of which a system should generally crash. So we have to do the error handling in such a manner that system should not be crashed fatally. And we also use Unicode enabled APIs and use latest internationalized names in applications and table documents, and the RFC is 5891 and 5892. This is not very difficult, but I am just giving you the documents and the standards you have to refer. We have to use UTF-8. I am again repeating UTF-8 is why it is important while during the process, and treat ASCII numbers, Asian, Arabic, and Persian ideographic numbers representations as numbers. Upgrade apps and servers which are important to support non-Unicode characters and non-ASCII characters, and perform code reviews to avoid buffer overflow attacks. When doing character transformation, text string may grow or shrink substantially. So we also have to consider buffer overflow attacks. And then display. This display is very important because we could see that India.sarkar.bharat should be displayed well when we have implemented domain names in local languages rather than its Unicode equivalent, which is x and dash dash 1bj, some encoding. So if we are seeing in the browser x and dash dash, we will be saying that if this domain is legitimate or not, or if some malicious website is there. But if we'll see India.sarkar.bharat in Devanagari script, we have a trust on that. So our display should be clear. Display all Unicode code points supported by the underlying operating system. That means display local language characters supported by the operating system. And when developing app services or operating a registry, consider language support and make sure operating system and application cover those languages. So in a simple terms, when you are developing an application, it should support different languages. Okay. And use Unicode IDNA compatibility processing to match user expectations. Details are present at unicode.org report/TR46. And be aware of unassigned and disallowed characters which are present in the RFC 5892, that which character we should not display. Now, how to do it? It is done by the Python 3. So there is a programming language Python. So Python 3 supports by default use of UTF-8 for its entire source code. The primary string data type str by default Unicode enabled. And in Python 3 onwards, one can even use Unicode in string literal, meaning one can have Unicode variable names too. Okay. For more details, I will share my presentation and you could click on the link. In short, the basic str data type in Python is sufficient to cater to Unicode handling requirements. So all those things I have cleared, discussed in my previous slide. If you are using Python 3, then it is supporting most of them. Okay. So, and how to validate your TLD? So you could go to data.ina.org to validate the top level domain part of the domain name. So top level domain comes and go. So some top level domains are present, and if they are not there, they are removed. So we have to check that if some TLD is present or not. So we have to check against these tables, and these tables are present are data.ina.org TLD tables. Okay. And you could also see validating the TLD part with INA repository. So this is the example, and this is some code written. So you could take the example of this code, and you have to see that Amazon TLD found xn.s2brj9c, that means it is .bharat. And ABCD, if somebody is writing Harish.abcd, but .abcd is not available, so we don't have to check further. So this is the advantage of this TLD validation. So again, this is the summary of accept, validate, store, process, and display. And what is universal acceptance and why it is required? Because the internet-enabled application devices and systems should accept, validate, store, process, and display all domain names and email addresses appropriately. And what are the action? So normalization, U label and A label conversion, length validation, case folding, validation. You could see kitab and kitab. So the correct one I have pointed out with the green, and the wrong one I have pointed out with the red cross sign. And Unicode compatible display. So these are the important, factors we have to consider. You could see if you go to this, India.sarkar.bharat, the government is leading the activity from the front for the support of multilingual internet. And you could see India.sarkar.bharat is, working, and in the real time, you could open the website on smartphones, on your or on the laptops. Again, mity.sarkar.bharat, that is the mighty.gov.in. Again, one of the example. You could also see nic.bharat. So again, this is the .bharat domain names are available in Hindi and other languages. Soon they will be available. So that is where all the students or who are seeking, their job and career. So because this is leading by the government, it is a very important part of digital India. So if you understand this technology, you will be, you have the ability to, showcase yourself as a person who has a specialized knowledge during your interviews. So again, all the domain names and email IDs should be accepted in all software applications. So that is all from my side today. Thanks a lot, ma'am, and thanks a lot for all the students to listen to me carefully, despite this is a bit technical and new to everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Harishi, for this such a in-depth, insightful, and technical presentation. I'm sure it has been a good learning experience for all of us, including the students who have joined us. I've just got a message from the team that there are a few questions which the students would like to ask. If you're okay, then we can take up those questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think they're just writing the questions. Just give me 1 or 2 minutes. I'll just so it's a question which has come from Shivam from, just a second. Yeah, from BCA second year, and his question is, what is the role of Unicode in the universal acceptance?
So Shivam, this is a good question. So there are two types of encoding we are using. So ASCII encoding.
So, it's a question which has come from Shivam from.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Can I request the screen of the ITS MCA to put themselves on mute? Thank you. I think there is a time lag. I was just hearing my own voice. Echo is there. So hope we are audible to all of you rightly. I'm assuming if there is no intervention, so it means all okay. Harish, please kindly continue with your answer.
So there are two types of encoding, ASCII encoding and Unicode encoding. So ASCII is generally, in a simple terms, is used to represent the Latin characters. Okay, that means English characters, numbers. Okay. So Unicode is encoding which encodes, entire character sets of this universe. That is a Unicode. So in which our Devanagari script and local languages scripts are also taken care of. So while we are talking about the universal acceptance, in which we say all the domain names and all the emails. Okay, that means all the domain names in local language and all the emails in local language should be treated equally and accepted in all the software applications. So Unicode is the kind of encoding which enable this. So I hope I am clear. And you have to use UTF-8. There are several formats of Unicode, so you have to use UTF-8.
Okay. There is a second question. Yeah, why is universal acceptance an issue? How does the domain name play a role in the universal acceptance? Vidya Gaur, BCA second year. So Harish, basically, Vidya wants to know why is universal acceptance an issue? So although we have covered that part, but maybe you like to little bit repeat on it. And then how does the domain name play a role in the universal acceptance? Harishi, can you hear us? Because your screen seems to be frozen. I think Mr. Chaudhary would be joining back. There's some network issue at his end, so kindly bear with us. Harishi, can you hear us?
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes,
Yes,
we can
yes.
listen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
So did you hear my question?
No, ma'am. Some issues in the network.
Okay. Harishji, although I raised up this question, but Dr. Data, would you like to take up this? Because this is more a generic question where you would like to talk about, which you mentioned in your presentation, that why is universal acceptance an issue and how does the domain name play a role in the universal acceptance?
Yeah. I can definitely address. Obviously, see, we are talking about the universal acceptance of the domain names here. Domain names and email addresses. Without domain name, there is no internet. We can assume that. And internet needs to be break free. So imagine I have a domain name in Hindi and I send you on WhatsApp. This is my domain name. And it is not clickable. It's a UA issue. If I search a text and Edge browser or Google browser, Chrome browser do not search this as a domain name or search this as a string, it's a UA issue. Hence, domain names is a very, very critical part of universal acceptance. All the domain names, remember my statement for what is universal acceptance? All domain names, all email addresses must be accepted in all software applications, which means जैसे अगर आपका कोई इंग्लिश का डोमेन नेम बिहेव करता है ऑन योर सॉफ्टवेयर एप्लीकेशन, एग्जैक्टली सेम वे जो लॉन्ग टॉप लेवल डोमेन नेम है वो या जो नॉन इंग्लिश कैरेक्टर वाले डोमेन नेम है वो उसी तरह से बिहेव करने चाहिए. ये हमारी एक्सपेक्टेशन है विद यूनिवर्सल एक्सेप्टेंस रेडीनेस. तो अगर डोमेन नेम ही अगर काम नहीं करेगा मेरा तो फिर सारा का सारा चीजें जो है वो इंटरनेट में ब्रेक हो जाएंगी. मैंने डोमेन नेम टाइप किया data.bharat और वो उसको समझ रहा है टेक्स्ट ना कि डोमेन नेम, तो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा सारा. इसलिए इट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट Vidya, because this is very important to have the UA readiness for domain names. I hope it answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. Data. Is there any other question that the students want to ask? Somebody, a coordinator from the ITS side, would you like to intervene and say anything out here, or should I take it that those are the only questions? Well, if somebody wants to intervene.
No more questions, ma'am.
No more questions. Okay. Thank you. So thank you, students, for being participative to this whole discussion. Hope you have been able to make some understanding of universal acceptance to you, and you've been able to understand the whole concept. We understand this is not the end of the journey, and one session is not enough to make a person totally compliant with the UA. And so it's a thing which we've started. We have heard the leaders today, you've heard from the industry, you've heard from your own director, and then of course you did hear on the technical aspects, how the technical skill development can happen in the area of UA. So we feel that with all this noble initiative, we have been able to lay some foundation for you all. Like I said, it's the starting of the journey, and you are more welcome to write back to us in terms of any further queries or any things and the way you would like to contribute. My team member Sudhir Malik would share the details of the link where you can find the details about UA furthermore, and also the joining link for the UA India community. So we encourage you to join in that community and participate. Also contribute with your own suggestions and views. Anybody who's willing to take up this in a higher level, we are more than happy to do the hand-holding process to whatever level we can in terms of the knowledge sharing, and I would say knowledge sharing and the other exposures which are possible. So like I said, we started with a concept of, like, in starting, that we understand that digital skilling is an important part of an IT sector. We have been talking, you've been hearing it almost for 90 minutes now since morning, and you understand that now it's not only the technical skill development, but it's a composite skill development, which is the organizations are looking at. Be you be the entrepreneur or you work it somewhere. So to make it yourselves competent enough for the same, and to obviously be aware of this concept, which is going to play an important role. It is equally important for you all to learn it. Harish has made an attempt to, whatever in the time frame he could, make you through the various processes that needs to be done. This is the things which you need to start thinking on these lines. And if you're thinking of building any applications, and if you're thinking about be a coder or something, it's important to consider UA thing in the starting itself. So like we say, we should have a UA by design. It shouldn't be that you've created something and then you add the feature of UA. So it's better that if UA by design is an approach which is being followed. With these, we would like to conclude today's session. I'm very thankful to Dr. Ajay Teta for his guidance, and of course, and we are also very happy that he's the chair of a UASG group for ICANN from India, and we are happy that under his guidance we can learn furthermore things and do various other initiatives. So thank you, Dr. Teta, for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Sunil Pandeyji, for sharing your insights, and for the ITS being a partner, and of course providing this opportunity where this discussion could happen. This platform has been established, and like I mentioned, we are more than happy to take further forward from here. Thank you, Harish ji, for, of course, taking us through the whole process, detailing it to whatever extent you can do. I know this is not beyond much time which can do the justice to such a wide and important subject, and especially when you talk about the technical skill development. But we are happy at least that we've been able to have this session, and I'm sure the idea has been taken up well by the students. And if there are further more queries and any questions which come up, we'll be happy to take it offline with you over the same discussion topic, and we'll continue the journey on the similar initiatives in future. I'd like to thank the students who participated, and my team, of course, who has helped us in building up this whole initiative. With these, I conclude the session. Anything else from your side, we are there to help you out. Thank you all. Jai Hind.